Hi guys, welcome to my channel, A Spark of Sam. My channel is about things that bring a little bit of spark into my life, and today that is crafting, specifically for my Stanley Tumbler. Today I'm going to show you how to make a Stanley Tumbler topper tag. I've heard them called Stanley toppers, Stanley tags. I call them topper tags just to cover all bases. But I'm going to show you how you can take an acrylic blank, UV resin, some fun materials, and really just get creative with it. So let's get started. First off, you're going to need your acrylic blank, and these come in so many shapes and sizes, and you can even use other acrylic blanks on top of blanks that fit your tumbler. But make sure if you have a 40-ounce Stanley that you get a 40-ounce tumbler topper tag. You'll also need gloves, a mixing cup, whether you use a silicone or medicine cup, a stir stick, and a UV light. I like the Counterculture DIY, and everything is linked below. I also use the UV resin from Counterculture DIY as well. Most of your acrylic blanks will come with a paper protective covering on the front and back. I suggest taking off just one side of this. You can use Gorilla Tape to pull it off. You can use a fingernail. You can use a weeding tool, whatever you want to take it off. Then for best results, I recommend sanding your acrylic blank. A lot of people don't sand, and it might peel off over time once the resin is cured. So I suggest sanding it just a little bit to scuff up the shininess, and then I like to use coffee filters to clean off your blank. And I just use regular water. You can use alcohol, but I just use regular water to clean the dust off of my blank before I resin it. Once all the dust is off and you feel like your acrylic is ready to be glittered, I like to prop it up on other medicine cups. It's just easier to manipulate and move around. And I always put in my UV resin into my cup before the glitter, because otherwise you could have a small glitter explosion. I have learned from experience. So I just put a little bit in, less than 10 milliliters, especially with this size blank. And I put in a decent amount of glitter. Now, I typically put my glitter into my UV resin directly instead of using other methods. You could also use Mod Podge and glitter directly on the blank. I just like this method because it kind of gives it a translucent look, and that's the look I'm going for this particular tumbler tag. But it's not always the thickest coverage. So if you are interested in other methods of glittering and UV resining blanks, please let me know, leave a comment, and I'll be sure to do more videos in the future. Now, once my mixture is a little bit thicker, I will put it on my blank. Remember that UV resin only cures with UV light. So if you have too much additives, it might not fully cure. So keep that in mind depending on if you're using mica powder or glitter or whatever you're using, because that may affect curing. Now, if you want like a black or dark glitter or a white glitter and you want it to be non-translucent, Counterculture DIY does have white UV resin and black UV resin that is a little bit better for giving a little bit more opaque backgrounds, so just keep that in mind. When I spread out my UV resin, I always like to put the resin in the middle, and I always scrape towards the edge. If you scrape from the edge inward, you'll get resin along the side. So I try to do it from the middle to the outside to avoid extra cleanup I have to do after the resin is cured. It's also better to do thinner layers of UV resin and do multiple layers versus like really thick layers. This just gives a better overall look to the cure there won't be as many bubbles, and it'll be a stronger cure because it's thinner resin. So I'm just making sure that the glitter is covering all of the areas and I'm covering all of the edges, and I'm moving from the middle of the blank towards the outside edge. Once I'm done, I let it sit for like 30 seconds or so, and then I go in with a lighter to pop any bubbles. Now you want to keep the flame moving. You do not want to hold it in one area too long because you will burn your UV resin, but this will help pop any top surface bubbles and will give you a better cure. Now I take my UV light and I will put it under the UV light for 3 to 5 minutes. It really depends on the strength of your UV light. And my number one suggestion is letting your tag completely cool before you start messing with it, because even when it's warm, you might indent it. So once it's completely cool, I will go in and do another layer. Now you can see it's still kind of bubbly, and that's because the glitter traps in so much bubbles. So I'm going to very lightly sand. You don't want to sand too much because you might take off the color of the resin. So I just lightly buff the acrylic blank, and I'm going to do another layer of glitter and UV resin. And for time's sake, I sped this up. Sorry, it's a little glitchy, but I sanded it, cleaned it off like we did previously, and then did another thin layer of UV resin and glitter. And then once I had it fully covered again, I took a lighter to it and cured it for 3 to 5 minutes under my UV light. And you can see once again that the finish is a little bit better, but still not as smooth as I would like it. So I like to sand it, clean it off one more time, but only do UV resin, no glitter mixed in for your final top coat. And typically I do a really thin layer and it comes out crystal clear, super awesome finish. Now this is the time that you would add your vinyl. I add the vinyl on the back flat side of the piece. So the piece that you left on to protect the back, you peel that off, and then you're going to sand it and add vinyl to that side. I already did that to this piece. It says "Enchanted to meet you" for my little Swiftie inspired Speak Now tumbler topper tag. And once my vinyl is on there, it is ready to cover with just a final coat. So I'm going to do like I did before with just UV resin, and I put a thin layer. I'm going to spread it all out. Once I have it completely covered, I am going to use a lighter to pop all the bubbles and then cure it for 3 to 5 minutes. Now, if you're getting fish eyes or little divots in your finished piece, that could be one, because you're not using enough resin. So sometimes when I have it completely spread out and all leveled to the place I want, I'll add a little bit more of UV resin just so it kind of domes a little bit better, because when UV resin cures, it'll shrink a little bit. Or two, it could be from bubbles. So make sure that you light it and pop all of those bubbles. And sometimes you just need to give it a minute or two to rest before you cure. That also helps, but sometimes if you wait too long as well, it causes it to shrink and kind of repel from certain edges. So you got to find that sweet spot, and don't worry, you'll practice and figure it all out. So cure your piece, and then we are done. Here is your finished Stanley Tumbler topper tag. They are so fun and so easy to make. There are so many small businesses who have them, and some of them even provide SVGs that fit their specific blanks. Some of them that I have used in this video and that I personally love are Beyond the Tumbler, Zindi, and 99 Art Designs. So I've linked all of those shops below, so go check them out, and you can also design your own. I think they're so much fun. You can really make some fun gifts with them or spruce up your own Stanley yourself. So thanks so much, guys. I can't wait to see what you do with this. Please be sure to tag me as SparkASam on all the socials if you use this video as a tutorial, because I can't wait to see what you do, and stay tuned for so many more videos. Bye, guys.